Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. We have a special buddy unboxing today of Korsun Pocket 2 from designer Jack Rady and Pacific Rim Publishing, and it is in a big box. Looks like about 3 inches thick and an oddball size here, and it came packed in the box with this thing, which looks like one of the player aids. Not sure if it's like we forgot to put this inside the box before we shrink wrapped it, or if it's an errata card or what. This is a buddy unboxing. And joining me is the ethereal voice of the great Fucko.
Good evening, all.
Okay, so he is in the room. So big box. We have a tape measure here, so why not measure it? So it is about 13 and 5/8, 13 and 4/8, something like that, and about 11 and a half. So not quite landscape 11 by 17, but nevertheless it is pretty big. So let's open her up and see what we get. Feels like a real thick box too. Oh dear. And this, of course, is a reprint of the original Korsun Pocket. When did that come out?
Mid-70s.
Mid-70s. Is that a People's Wargame production?
Yeah, original.
I believe so. The box has a kind of nice sort of satin finish to it. I kind of like that. And it's pretty full. So, starting out here, we're going to have a rule book, which is not too thick. 28 pages. Pretty big print. You can tell this was typeset by an older person, I think, and it looks like it was, looks like it's black and white, which is fine. Sort of a satin finish paper. High density, there's not much in the way of illustrations here. Looks like so far we're on page 20 plus, and we're still in the rules. So what, at a glance, this looks like not a light game, but not a crazy heavy game either. Partisans. And a scenario book, which feels like about 32 pages, and it is. All right, and we have what looks like 8 scenarios, which does include the campaign game and a lot of historical notes in here as well. So 8 scenarios. Get some what look to be additional rules for each scenario here. We're going to take a look. Ooh, that's fancy looking. I'm looking at what's on top of the box right now. So a whole bunch of scenarios here. That's good. Any big game, I like to see a lot of scenarios, right?
Oh, yeah. Scenarios are always a good thing.
So, and we got a bunch, quite a lot, actually, of historical background. Roughly half this book is historical background. So, and there's an example of play here, which is great, but it doesn't have illustrations, which is a little bit depressing. But it's not a world-ending catastrophe, I suppose. There is a note on the historiography, which is really nice to see. A bibliography, which I always want to see. So that looks nice. Now we have this thing. These are situation maps, and it kind of looks like these are sort of army issue maps underlaid with the actual hex map. These are kind of neat, and these are 2-sided. 4 panels, which look to be conventional 8.5 by 11 panels, and this has a nice satin finish on it as well. So February 10th over here, and February 1st over here. This is right around the time of the Korsun Pocket, of course. Here's January 25th. What is the start date for the January scenario in Third Winter? It's like December 22nd? Or January 22nd, something like that?
I was thinking it was early in January for Third Winter.
I felt like it, but I could be nuts, too. Okay, so January 25th situation map. And here's a blank situation map. I don't feel like these are coated with a coating that you could write with dry erase markers or grease pencils on it. So recommended to photocopy that. Now we're getting into the maps, and there appear to be 4 of them actually. And let's pull one out and set it up on the table so we can actually give you nice folks a look at what it looks like. This is the part we cut out in post. Okay, so this is what appears to be the southeast map in the 4-map set, and I'm not sure who. Mapped by Joy Cohn, actually is credited on the map, which is rather nice. Kind of odd that there's dead space on the side, but they still put the logo and all this stuff on the map area rather than off on the border. This graphically looks very much in keeping with something I would have seen out of 3W in about 1990. On the other hand, it is clear, and it is on a nice, once again, satin finished paper, and these are all single-sided maps. So we'll leave that as the backdrop for all the other stuff that we see here. So this is neat. I haven't seen this before. You actually cut these out and glue them together and stand them up wherever so you can see what the weather is. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
I could, of course, 3D print something for that, but this is cool too, right? We've got some additional player aids. This is the Unit Counters and Markers Guide. There's going to be a lot of counters, as we'll see. Different movement types, 5 types for personal movement. That's more than usual. There's foot, motorized, ski, railroad, and artillery. And looks like there's a subtype of foot called horse. Actually, no, they're distinct movement type of their own. And we got 2 of those. Now we got another one of these player aid cards. And on here we have the CRT, which is a very old-fashioned looking CRT. Sequence of play, which is not terribly complicated. Terrain effects on combat, line of sight, and artillery chart. Do we know what the hex scale is on this thing?
It's a company level game, if I remember right.
Well, we're going to find out when we see the counters, but that kind of feels correct. I believe these hexes kind of look like a mile or half a mile at a glance. So we've got a bunch of organizational cards, which is like a lot, which is kind of cool. Like a lot. Okay, so here we have 8th Flieger Corps, and presumably you set these up and can use these to manage breakdowns. There's like a lot of these. Here's a thing for 1st Ukrainian Front. These are in all different sizes. 1st Ukrainian Front, 2nd Tank Army. 1st Ukrainian Front, 27th Army. 2nd Ukrainian Front. Okay. 1st Ukrainian Front, 6th Tank Army. And these appear to be a cross between, just going by the org charts here, a cross between regiments and battalions. I'm not really seeing companies. Okay. In which case, the scale of a mile per hex sounds roughly correct. But it could be, 2 kilometers or whatever it is. So 1st Ukrainian Front, 40th Army. So there's a whole pile of these things. And we haven't even seen most of the German ones yet, I don't think. Then again, there's a lot more Russians. So here's 47th Panzer Corps. These are all single-sided as well. Here is an even bigger one for 2nd Ukrainian Front, the very large 53rd Army.
Double-sided.
Double-sided. This one's double-sided. Okay. So the front here is the 25 January scenarios, and the back is the 1 February, 10 February scenarios. So some of these at least are double-sided. Now we have a Soviet turn record and a sorted card. Deadpool right here. Air units available. Okay. And this would be the turn record track. And then we have a similar one, which is actually larger for the Germans, presumably because they'll have a lot of dead guys. No, but then again, so will the Soviets. And we got sections for breakdown companies and battalions here. So this looks to me like something I would describe as a regimental level game, but it looks like you can break down infinitely, so that's probably not quite the case. Now we got one lonely D6 in a Ziploc bag, and we've got box spacers, which I think is probably a good idea given the amount of stuff that's in here. And we have a whole bunch of counter sheets. I do always appreciate when there's enough box space to actually fit the components of the game once you take everything apart. So let's take a look at the counter sheets. And it looks like there's 12 of them, something like that. We will find out in a moment. And they are shrink wrapped together, which implies offshore production. And they're held together with like a top and bottom card. These remind me of ADG's counters, actually. The counters for Wilden Flames, for example. They're the same size cards. We're on a brown core stock that these days I would characterize as on the thin side, but they're not extraordinarily thin or anything. I don't think that's going to bother anybody. Did you know you were signing up for center nibs when you ordered this thing?
No.
So, what was the MSRP?
$300.
$300 for center nibs.
Pre-pub.
Pre-pub.
Pre-pub for two and a quarter until May, I think.
Okay. I mean, it's a big game. So we got 1st Ukrainian Front there, more 1st Ukrainian Front. So it looks like the front and or army is being designated by the counter field color. I feel like I'm seeing some slight registration issues over here as well, but nothing that I would actually like write an angry letter to the publisher about, since everything is actually like in the counter. It just seems a little bit off to the left in a couple of cases, like right there. That's a little close. Then again, it looks like maybe their gutters are a little small too. So we're up to 3 counter sheets, more 2nd Ukrainian Front. The counters look nice. I mean, they're very traditional looking counters. They're not overpacked with information or anything like that. And they have I'd call a satin finish, satin or low gloss finish. So we get the expected 2 Soviet fronts along with a large number of different markers. I don't know what these mean. Do you?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. And then we got, once again, 1st Panzer Army and 8th Army, which are, these are very similar colors, I gotta say. So you're looking at several different colors here. You got this darker 1st Ukrainian Front color. You've got this 2nd Ukrainian Front color. These 2 German colors, 3 German colors, all of which look very close to one another. Even this, I don't think that's a huge deal, except that this Soviet color to my eye looks a lot like this German color, and that's undesirable. You don't want to be moving Germans by mistake, right?
No.
So, a lot of counters here. We got some fortification counters that look like they got lost out of my Guns of August box. Pretty much exactly, actually. Then again, I do expect to see fortifications here. We have what appears to be more fortifications, okay, for both Russians and Germans, and another sheet of markers. Presumably these designate rail lines and or roads, I suppose. The rail lines appear to be distinct from the roads on the map. So so there's that, and then we got some supply markers. This is a large game. How many counter sheets did we count here? I'm seeing 12 counter sheets, so I was right about that. So a lot of counters, and these are 200 counter sheets. So that means that we're going to have 2,400 counters, which is a pretty substantial game. And if we look at the back of the box, let me pop the counters out again very briefly to see what useful information is on here. Back of the box is not incredibly descriptive, but it does give you a graphic of the map, which this absolutely looks like it was pulled from the playtest map, because the actual map doesn't look like this. But then this pop-out map certainly looks like, even if the colors are kind of off, much closer to the finished map. So this has been in the works for a long time. And it is kind of a classic and probably the best known game out of the folks at People's War Games, a company that I think they went away in probably the 80s, right?
Yeah, I think
that
so.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Without looking at it, they did a number of things that were notable. And yeah, the box is pretty full. If you leave those spacers in, you got a lot of stuff in here, and we have yet to pack up the last map. It's barely room for this one tiny red die, and for those who are concerned that they might not be getting enough for their $300 on this, there is indeed a lot of stuff on here. So battalion, maybe regiment, maybe company scale game on the Korsun Pocket 2. Long awaited for a long time from designer Jack Rady and Pacific Rim Publishing. Hopefully you've enjoyed this or found it informative. If so, please do subscribe to the channel and give the video a big thumbs up. Please click the bell icon to get notified when new content comes out. And a special shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whose help and support none of this would be possible. If you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to the Patreon in the video description. Until next time, thanks for watching and happy wargaming.
Bye all.